Okay, today we will discuss how to write programs using C++ with the help of classes and objects. Classes, class space, class name. You must be having some data here inside, and then you must be having some functions, right? Terminate with a semicolon, right? So this is the syntax of class. But here, when you are declaring the members of the class, both data and functions are said to be the members of the class. Both data and functions are said to be members of the class. Members of the class are accessed with membership operator called dot, right? Dot. Okay. And here, these members are required to be defined with certain scope, right? These members are declared with certain scope. I hope all of you are writing, right? Certain scope using access specifiers. Access specifiers. Now let us look at what are these access specifiers. Access specifiers defines they define the scope of the members, right? They are first one is private, second one is public, third one is protected. No, the default one is if you don't mention the access specifier, what will be the default one? Default is private. Okay. Now look at the scope of the private members, right? Private members private members are accessed only within the class, right? Only within the class. public members are accessed within the class within its derived classes and through the object as well. Okay. Then coming to protected members. Protected members are accessed within the class and within its derived classes. In its derived classes, right? So these are the three different access specifiers. Generally, we have to define the scope of the members of the class. Okay. So if you declare the members under private mode, they will be accessed only within the class. If you declare it under the public mode, they will be accessed within the class, which is derived classes, and through the object as well. Protect member are accessed only within the class and its derived classes, not through the object. Okay. So now, when you are declaring a class, right, in general, what you do is the members you declare under the private mode, right? Data members. If I don't mention, it is under private only, right? But functions we will declare under public mode. Okay. Functions we will declare under public mode. So you can see class space followed by class name. Then inside that you have some data. You can declare integer data, character data, float data, long data, whatever you want. If I do not mention, I did not mention here access specifier. So it is default private here, right? So all that data has been declared under private. Then functions to be declared. Before declaring the functions, what I did, I put public colon here. Before I start writing the functions, I wrote public colon. It means after public colon followed, members will be declared under public mode, right? So it means the functions will be declared under public. So this is the usual practice, right? Usual practice is to declare members, data members as private, right? So data is declared under private mode and functions are declared under public mode. This is the usual practice. Why? I'll tell you, right? See, data hiding is one of the feature of the object-oriented programming system. So if you declare data under private, what happens? It will be hidden only inside the class. It will not be visible to the user, right? Objects are visible to the user, right? And functions, right? If you do not declare functions under public mode, what happens? They cannot be accessed through the object. So in order to implement the class, what do? You create an instance of the class and then invoke the functions of the same. So how do you do that? Creating an instance of a class is said to be instantiation, right? So that instance is said to be what? Object, right? So how do you do that? Class name space object or instance name, right? For example, student class we have. So it says student class. Student is the class name space. The object name, let us say S. So I say student S. Okay. So you have from certain functions inside the student class like read and display. How do you invoke them? With the help of membership operator called dot, right? S dot read. Okay. And S dot display. Okay. This is how you. So in the main function, you just invoke the functions, right? So as we said, one of the important feature of the object-oriented programming system, in addition to encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism, is the abstraction, right? Data abstraction. So hiding the data, non-essential data. And procedural abstraction, hiding how the operation will take place, right? Means the implementation details, data, right? From the user. Fine. So we are able to cover all these additional features with the help of declaring the functions under public mode and data under private, right? That's the usual practice, right? So as I said, in addition to encapsulation, inheritance and polymorphism, these are the minimum 3 features when a particular programming language supports. We say it is a object-oriented programming. But then in addition to that, abstraction, right? Data abstraction. Hiding the data. Abstraction means hiding, right? So with the help of declaring the data under private mode, what you are able to do, you are able to hide the data from the user, right? From the object, right? Data hiding, intermittently same, and abstraction, procedural abstraction, right? We are able to do all this. Yes or no? We are able to do all this with the help of access specifiers. Yes or no? By declaring data under private mode, we are able to hide the data from the user, non-essential data from the user, right? And by declaring the operation inside the functions, where only functions are going to be invoked, and the operational, details will be rather hidden from it. Okay, that is said to be procedural abstraction, right? So anyway, abstraction and hiding, in addition to encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, we are able to execute here, right? And now let us look at here the demonstration of the C with the help of an example. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
No? Now it is quite legible, right? I have increased the size. I've changed the background also. So I have written a small program here. You can see here class student. I've declared a class here, simple class. So you can see class student. Fine. And as I said, how do you declare a class? Class space student. Other class name is student here. And it is terminated with a semicolon. You can see here terminated with a semicolon. Now, you want to declare certain data members, you can declare, okay, int s number. Okay, this is the data here. So what all data you want, you can rather declare here. Okay. See, while you are declaring the data, you are here I did not mention the access specifier. So if I did not mention, it is by default private, right? So S number is declared under private. Now read and display, these are the two functions here. Fine. So these two functions are declared under public mode. You can see public colon asset. Yes or no? Public colon. So after public colon, what all I have declared, they all come under public mode. So functions I have declared under public mode. The advantage of having the public mode is you can access these things through the object. Yes or no? So you can see in int main, so in main function, I have created an instance of this class, right? Student space s, right? This is the object, right? S is the object here. Now, you can invoke all the functions since they are declared under public mode through the object, right? So S is the object. I am now invoking the function read and display through S. S dot read. So you can see S dot read asset, then S dot display, right? So when I invoke this, what happens? The read function is going to be executed. When I invoke display, it's going to execute display function, right? I hope this is clear how to write a class, simple class, right? Now let us demonstrate the same, okay? What do you say? Just say run, okay? You can see here, you got the output here in the bottom, that is in the console window. Yes, hello world is what you have printed here first. Then with the help of read, you are just printing student, and with the help of display also, you are printing student. Are you able to see the result? Yes. Now, let us try to implement, the student records, okay? With certain data members like student, roll number, name, and marks. Okay. So for that, what is it you have to do? You have to take student name. You can take student name as an array or a pointer. With the help of pointer also, you can declare a string. Yes or no? Student number, character. I'm declaring it as a pointer. Okay, student name as a pointer. Advantage of having declaring the string with the help of pointer is you can have any number of characters. There is no limit, right? And the memory utilization is quite effective. because the characters when you try to enter during the runtime based on which only the memory be allocated. It means dynamic allocation of the memory is going to be done. Okay. So based on the number of characters that you have inputted through the keyboard, only those many characters for which the memory will be allocated in the system, and the same will be stored, and there is no limit for the length. Okay. But otherwise, if you are declaring string with the help of an array, the array must have to be declared with a limit. If I say 20, then I cannot exceed the name more than 20, right? So I can go with pointer like this. Okay, this is another option of declaring the string. Now let us take 3 subject marks. I am taking one array for 3 subject marks. How do you declare an array? The help of square brackets, right? Now I want to calculate total. Say total equal total. Here you are declaring, right? And now let us try to calculate average. Average, let us say it is float, so I am declaring it as float here. AVG I am saying, okay. So the example which I have discussed in the last class using structure and functions, the same I am implementing it with the help of now classes. The advantage probably I'll discuss at the end, okay. Are you able to see my screen? Yes. So now in the read function, I am asking the user to enter the roll number and student roll number and student name and 5 subject marks, right? 5 here, 3 subjects, right? So it's 3 subjects. Okay. So first read student number. How do you read? With the help of scene? You say S number, and then student name you have S name. Then I can take a for loop here. In C++, we are allowed to declare the variables as and when it is required. Unlike C, where in all the variables have to be declared at the beginning of the program itself, right? So here, if I want, let us say, then and there I can just declare and use it. The scope of that particular variable is limited to that particular text. That's it, right? I equal to 0. Semicolon, I less than 3, semicolon, I plus plus. So you are reading here 3 subject marks. Okay. Now in display function, let us say I am changing this display as calc display, calculate and display. Okay, calc display. It is first going to display the number and name. Student number equal to where it is available in S number, right? The single cout I can display number and name. So name equal to its name. Then I can calculate total average. Before I calculate, total being accumulated of all 3 subjects marks available in marks array into total. Total must have to be initialized with what? 0, right? Total equal to 0. Then I can use a for loop here to accumulate all the values of the M array. Okay, I can declare I again here. This flexible declaration is allowed, right? Whenever you want, wherever you want, you can probably declare and then dispose. So here total, I can use shortcut operator plus equal to. What do you mean? What do you mean by this? Total plus equal to means total equal to total plus. Then the LHS of the binary operation and the LHS both are equal. Then I can use shortcut operator. Okay, total plus equal to I can say M of I. Okay. Then I will be finding the average here. Average equal to total by 3, right? Total by because there are 3 subject marks. Then now I can display the total average here. Okay. So you can see I've modified this read and calc display functions. In read function, we are trying to read the roll number, student name, and 3 subject marks. And then in calc display, we are displaying number and name which we have read before, and we're trying to find the total by accumulating the marks that we have read in the M array, and then we're finding the average of the same, and then are displaying both of them, right? Now let us call the same functions here. So I've already created the object here. Listen. To remove this, I have single line comment with the help of double hash. Double slash. Fine. So this will be commented, or else if you want to delete, you can probably delete also. No issue, right? If this you can delete it, or else you want to read it as a comment, you can do it as a comment by using single line comment. Single line comment is double slash. Okay. Now the program is done. We will be using the languages C++. You have to choose the languages C++, and you can save the program. Okay, program is saved here. Now you can execute the program, right? Yeah, compiled successfully. Student number, it is asking, you can see student number, name, and 3 subject marks, right? So sometimes, okay, the time is exceeded. You can again execute, otherwise execute it once again. Pointers, it takes more amount of time. We'll better remove it, otherwise. Yeah, we'll better remove this as pointer. I just take it as a character array instead. Yeah, I have to give the inputs here, command line argument. Let us execute again. Yes. So I have to enter the student number. Let us say 24. I have entered name as let's say Raju, and marks, let us say 87 in one subject, uh, 75 in another subject, and let us say 67 is another subject, right? You can see here student number is displayed, name is Raju, total is accumulated, the accumulation of numbers is done, then average percentage is displayed. Is it clear? Yes. You can see the output here, right? So this is how we are going to execute the programs, fine, in C++. I can take this as a pointer also and see. Okay, 75 is the rule number. Now the name I am giving is any length rather, because it's a pointer. I can give any big length name here. Okay. It's giving problem. It's giving problem. Okay, with pointer set. Sometimes because due to memory allocation, if not its side sufficient, this kind of error you will get. But no issue. But this kind of option is there. Okay, when you are executing in your regular compilers, you can see the difference of the same, right? So this is clear. Fine. So now I have, let us say, more number of functions to be defined inside a class. Okay. But if I start defining the functions inside the class like this, my class looks to be very bigger. Okay. Instead of having written the functions code inside the class, I can write the code of the functions outside the class, but I can bind at the same time to that class with the help of scope resolution operator. That we will see now. I'll probably discuss it in whiteboard, and then we'll modify the existing program with the scope resolution operator. Okay. So scope resolution operator. Double colon. Okay. This is said to be scope resolution operator. What is the advantage of scope resolution operator is when you are writing the functions source code outside the class, to bind the functions to that respective class, you can do it with the help of the scope resolution operator, right? So it defines the scope of the functions when they are written outside the class, right? Okay. So what it does when the functions are written outside, when the functions are defined outside, it will bind these functions to the class to which it belongs rather, right? So how is it going to be done? You can see here, for example, I have one class name, right? And then under public mode, I've defined one function. So what function carries actually? Function declaration carries return type, function name, and arguments, right? Which is said to be the function prototype. So what is that you have to do? You just have to mention the function prototype here under public mode of the class. So the return type, function name, and then arguments, right? Then says semicolon, that's it, right? And you have terminated the class. Now the class consists of only the function prototypes, right? You're not defining the function inside the class. So what all functions you have belonging to that respective class, you can mention all such functions prototype inside the particular class under public mode. Now when you're defining, you'll be defining the source code of that particular function outside the class. So when you are defining it outside the class, how are you that you're going to mention here is, you first mention the return type, right? Return type, then we'll mention the class name, space followed by class name, then you say scope resolution operator, then you say function name, right? And arguments, and define the code now. So advantage is your class looks to be very smaller, right? You just mention the data, what all the data you have, that's it. And then under the public mode, you just mention the function prototype. This is what? This is the function prototype, right? So you just mention the function prototype under the public mode of that class. Now you define the function source code outside. The advantage is readability. Readability will be improved, right? If I am interested to look at the source code of only one particular function, I just go to that respective function and can see. But otherwise, if I have all the function source code defined inside the same class, then what happens? I need to look through the entire class in order to check only one function source code in it as well, right? Fine. So writing the function source code outside the class will help me in checking the code exclusively, with that particular respective function easily, which encompasses the readability. Readability is one of the important criteria for evaluation in programming languages, right? If the program is more readable, then it is writable. When it is writable, then it is executable as well, right? So that's how the readability importance is there in programming languages. So this kind of defining the function source code outside the class will help to improve the readability. Fine. Now let us write the program using the scope resolution operator in this particular program. Now here what is that I do is I just mention the prototypes. What are the prototypes of these functions? Read function prototype, and then fancy display functions prototype, right? And now I'm terminating the class here itself, right? That's it. Class consists of, you can see, data and function prototype. That's it. Now the function source code I'm defining outside the class. So when I'm defining outside the class, what is that I have to do? I have to first mention the return type is void. Then I have to mention the class name. What is the class name here? Student. S is capital. Generally, class name starts with the capital letter and function name starts with the small letter. Okay. The student is already available, student. Then I say scope resolution operator. Then I say read. That's it, right? So similarly here again, calculate display function source code when I'm writing outside the class. You can see first I write the return type, then I mention the class name, then I mention the scope resolution operator, then I mention the function. That's it, right? So writing this way will help me in reading the code more efficient way, right? So see, if a person is not interested to know the details of the functions, he need not to read the entire thing, right? He just have to just look at the class. He will just look at the class. Class consists of data and the function. What kind of functions they are carrying? That's it, right? If a person is willing to look at the code of a particular respective function, he just go to that respective function and then just go to the and understand the code. That's it, right? Similarly, for display, for example, you can probably go to the display and then just look at it, right? So this is the advantage of writing the function source code outside the class, which helps to improve the readability, right? So what is that you're doing? You'll just mention the function prototypes and the public mode of the class. That's it. Then when you are defining the code outside the class, you mention return types, followed by space, followed by class name, followed by scope resolution operator, followed by function name, and arguments, if any, right? Then you write the code, right? Now again, run the program and see. You get the same output, right? Yes, you're getting the same output. So let us say Rajita 98, 76, and 87. These are the marks. You can see the output here. Student number 45, name is Rajita, right? Average is 87. Fine. So when we write the classes, we follow this kind of procedure, right? We just first define the class ADT. This is said to be ADT. So just mention what are the data members and what are the functions associated with the particular class. We're just mentioning in the class, and then the source code of the function you define outside of the class, right? You can write wherever you want, no issue, because the binding will be automatically here taking place with the help of this scope resolution operator. What this scope resolution operator is doing, it is binding this particular function with this respective class, right? You can write in any order, right? This function source code, while you are writing outside the class, you can write in any order, no issue, right? That doesn't matter. I hope this is clear to all of you.